Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July 15th episode of the Softlock Podcast. This is our 10th episode. Congratulations, John, on making it to episode 10 without me driving you absolutely crazy. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and joining me is the third best bowl cut to come out of the year 2000. John, how are you doing today?
I thought my award said fourth.
Fourth?
Yeah.
I don't know that many people with bowl cuts, to be honest with you, so...
Yeah. I'll have to go check my trophy for that. But
okay.
I'm doing pretty good. I don't have a video game sound effect meme to attach my greeting with, but I do have... I feel like that... Have you ever seen that picture of Will Smith during the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and he's standing in the middle of the empty room?
Yeah.
He just has his hands in his pockets? That's what I feel like right now.
Why is that?
I don't really know. I just got out of the woods for a couple of weeks, and, you know, we're finishing up our education right now. So, you know, I think in the next episode we're going to be remote. We're not going to be filming it in person with each other. So it's like a transitionary period. And my room right now is like completely empty, so I feel like that, you know, the end of Fresh Prince, where you're just standing in the empty room. Yeah. But in Fresh Prince, it was supposed to be like a sad moment, because I think that was the final scene of the show, because they move out of the house or whatever. But I'm specifically referring to those versions of the images where they bit crush it so much that it just looks like a blur standing in an empty room. So that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm a blur standing in an empty room. Also because I don't know what game to be playing. Because I didn't bring any of my video games to the apartment.
Well, you only got a couple more weeks where you have to bounce between game and game.
Yeah,
but yes,
so...
This is the Softlock Podcast. Every other week, you're going to get a deep dive into a specific video game topic sent straight to your inbox, either on podcast services or on YouTube at Softlock Pod. You can also keep up with our updates and become a part of the conversation on Instagram at SoftlockPod, where we ask for you to send in audience feedback, such as today, where we got a bunch of people writing in about their favorite roguelikes, because that is our topic today. We're talking about roguelike light games, whatever you call them, rogue games, where they're all random. They're seemingly very popular.
Yeah, we might have to make a distinction between roguelike and roguelite.
I don't think anyone cares. I don't think anyone cares.
No, nobody cares, but there is a difference.
I know, there is.
And it's weird.
But... yeah, like John just mentioned, we are going to be making some changes here. So next episode is probably going to come to you a little bit later than normal. I know we just had a little bit of a break, but we're going to go on a very brief hiatus while me and Jonathan figure out our lives. Because we're moving on from this apartment, we're moving on from our education, we're looking for jobs, we're trying to figure out what's next for us. But we'd like to keep the podcast up and running, so definitely follow us at SoftlockPod on Instagram to see when our next episode is going to be. We're going to be doing it remote now. So what does that mean? Nothing, really. We're still going to keep the same format. We're going to do all the same things. If anything, we might sound a little better.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably better audio quality.
Yeah, because we're going to have our own microphones. We're going to be doing it through Zoom, but we'll record locally and everything. So it should sound pretty good. We might even, because it's a little easier with having our like Zoom or Discord cameras on, we might even do video at some point. I'm not going to promise anything, but I feel like that's definitely in the cards now. And
yeah, we can mess around with it. I'm very much enjoying doing the podcast, so I am excited to experiment with a change of pace and scenery.
Yeah, obviously there's things we can only do in person, and then there's things we can only do online. So we're gonna see what works, see what sticks. Hopefully you'll be along for the ride, and we hope to give you a good podcast. But speaking of updates, thank you for all the support so far on YouTube. Our YouTube presence has been blowing up relatively for the size that we are already. You know, I'm not going to get into the numbers, but our reels have been doing really well, or shorts rather, have been doing really well. And I like that people are listening to the podcast on YouTube. So we'll see if there's any other platforms we should be expanding into. But enough about the housekeeping, enough about what the show is. Jonathan, how you been? It's been almost 3 weeks now since we recorded the last episode about JRPGs. What you been up to since then?
I have been in the Midwest, and
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're sorry. I don't know. It was kind of nice. I know it's a culture shock for sure. I don't know. You know, as an East Coast City lad, it's a completely different way of living out there.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that really. Like you grew up in New York, and then you moved to Philly, so you've always been in a city. What was it like to just be out there in the wilderness?
And I've never even visited when I was very young, I think I went to New Mexico, but I don't really remember that. But for most of my life, I've been locked to that coastline, and only this year have I even went out to not the East Coast, and it was like it was stressful for me. I had to look up an article on Culture Shock to like understand what was happening, because I was like just standing there and I was just seeing how people lived, and not like, you know, because they dress the same, they talk the same. I mean, they talk a little bit differently. Like, you know, they're still Americans and we can identify as Americans, but just seeing how they go about day to day is so much different than how it would be in an urban city. And I was just like looking, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, holy shit, these people really do have a completely different like way of living, just in such minor ways that it feels so strange to me. Like, you have to drive really far to do anything out there. Not only in Colorado, because I went to Colorado in the mountains, and first of all, it's beautiful. And, you know, I can probably send you some pictures that you can put up for the YouTube version, but it's absolutely beautiful out there. You know, mountains, and it's like you're looking at a computer desktop wherever you look. But you have to drive. You have to drive everywhere. You don't have any cell service unless you have a provider that's actually out there. Those city providers like Verizon is mainly for a city. No reception out there. No reception. And, you know, even in Oklahoma, you still have to drive. Oklahoma City, you know, oh, it's a city, so it's probably like Philadelphia, New York. No, you still got to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's nice. I you know, it's a very, very nice change of pace. I would suggest, providing that you have the funds and time, take a visit to the other states, see how they live. Just go to check it out.
Go outside, touch some grass, gamers.
Yeah, going outside and touching grass works wonders sometimes.
It really does. It's the last thing you want to do when you're inside having a good time, but then you get out there and you're like, oh man, this isn't so bad after all.
Yeah, it's kind of like Stockholm syndrome with your computer.
Yeah. Like, oh. All right, what was the favorite thing that you did while you were out there? Just, and then I don't want to make the whole podcast about your trip or anything.
Honestly, we didn't really do much. You know, like, it's not like we went out and we're like, we're gonna, you know, whitewater rafting. We just kind of hung out, and that's all I needed. We hung out, enjoyed a beautiful mountainside. I was with my girlfriend Isla's family, and we just hung out. We had a good time, no stress, besides the paper I had to write during it. But yeah, that was my favorite part. Booling, just straight booling.
Cool. That's good. I was also stressed about this paper.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I feel like even though you were out there doing your Zen relaxation, occasionally interrupted by the paper, somehow I feel that I had that same experience being here, because this paper, it's like part of our final assignment, kind of.
Yeah.
It was so stressful for me that in the moments leading up to it, and then after I was finished with it, I felt the most relaxed I felt in years.
Yeah.
And I laid in my bed, and it was like I was laying in a cloud. in like some Caribbean island resort. I was just like, oh, this is nice.
That does feel nice. I am not gonna miss that feeling though, but I say it like I won't ever feel it again. We are.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna have deadlines and stuff at our work.
Oh yeah, but it's gonna be scarier probably, because it's gonna be like, if you don't meet this deadline, you're not gonna have rent. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you bring your Switch? Did you play any games while you're out there, or did you pretty much put it away?
Oh yeah. I play games.
All right, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you played since our last episode? It's been quite a while, so.
I have a lightning round. You know, I'll go into depth as needed if you're interested.
Tell us a little bit about the games. I don't want to just hear like, I played this game, it was good.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about them.
That's literally what I wrote down in my
notes. Tell me a little bit about them.
So, I played Knights of Pen and Paper, Knights of Pen and Paper 2. I'm currently playing through right now, but I beat Knights of Pen and Paper 1. I finished Loop Hero, and I played Castlevania Bloodlines. Let's start with Knights of Pen and Paper. Knights of Pen and Paper is, in my GG app review, I wrote that this was my Final Fantasy growing up.
Hang on, pause right there.
Yeah.
Not enough of you out there are following us on the GG app. The GG app is really cool.
Are we linked?
We are linked. It's it's always in the description of the podcast. It's also in our link in our bio on Instagram. Mm-hmm. If you're listening to a video game podcast, you like video games enough to be on the GG app. Go follow us on there. We put up some good shit over there.
Well, I wonder.
But continue.
Do people even know what GG app is? Is it that popular?
Not really, but you know, it's been in our description and everything. Check it out. It's like a little game tracker. You get to leave reviews. Me and Jonathan are very active on there.
I almost have 100 reviews. I almost did 100 like full reviews. Well, you know, not like full like published style reviews, but full reviews, like I think over 300 words for every game I played this past year. almost 100 reviews. So, check it out. I put a lot of effort into it. I really just do it for myself, but, it's fun.
Yeah, follow us in there. Back to Knights and Pen and Paper.
Knights and Pen and Paper. It was my Final Fantasy growing up. It was super basic RPG, but the whole gimmick is that you are the dungeon master as well. So you create the quests and you... instead of random encounters, you make the encounters.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, but when I was a kid, I played it a lot. Me and my friends, we played it at Scouts a lot because it was free on mobile when it first came out. And we loved it. So maybe it was $1, but we loved it so much because it was just kind of something. It was like chips, it's so easy to consume. It's nothing that crazy. The NPCs, because it's supposed to be kind of like a joke about it being a Dungeons and Dragons game. So the NPCs are like village elder. That's their name, and they reference it like that's their name. And there's plenty of different classes. So make your team, make some synergies, figure out what's what. Super basic. You're not really going to hit any walls or anything like that. You just kind of like go and you just have fun. I think I gave it... it's good. It's good. I gave it a 6. Not as good as I remember it. It's super basic and very, very repetitive. The first one is extremely repetitive because the only thing you really do is fight things and that's it. And for most of the game, the enemies don't do anything but kind of just hit you for a flat amount of damage. So it can be very boring. If you love RPGs, and really basic RPGs, I'm kind of weird. I love really, really basic RPGs for some reason. It's just
we talked about it in the last one.
Yeah, I talked about it in the last one. I don't know. It's just something. It's like I don't know. It's like potato.
What are you playing on? Switch?
Yeah. So the Switch version. So this game came out 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, I think.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was playing it in like 2011 or something like that on my little iPod Touch in class underneath my desk.
If your teachers don't listen to this.
Yeah, don't. Sorry, I was gonna say the name of one of them. I don't remember them. And the Switch came out with a version. It's Paradox Interactive, so they've made plenty of.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's Paradox.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And Empire of Sin. I can't think of many of their other games right now. But the Switch version has the first one, which includes the DLC and some other extra additions, including an entirely new ending that I've never seen before. And then they have Knights of Pen and Paper 2 in that same bundle. I think I bought it for like $15. And Knights of Pen and Paper 3 actually just came out. Mostly negative reviews.
Oof.
Oh dear.
Oof.
I was looking it up. I was like, Knights of Pen and Paper 2. I never finished this game. I started it when I was younger. And I played it on the iPod again. Super monetized because it was an iPod Touch game. I was like, oh dear. Like, that really sucks, so I never picked it up. Obviously, they fixed it for the Switch version because, I spent $15 on it. They made it like a real game. So, I heard that yeah.
Let's lay off. Don't call gacha games real games. We're going to upset a lot of people.
No. It became a real game. Oh, you're right. I understand now. Sorry, gacha community. But, yeah, Knights of Pen and Paper 3 came out. Mostly negative reviews. Check the thing. Over monetization. It feels like a grindy mobile game. And I was like, shit. Well, that's how... the second game started out, so maybe
just wait long enough.
Yeah, if I wait 6 years, then it'll be good again. Not a great business strategy, but whatever.
What else you been playing?
I played Loop Hero, which I think I'll talk a little bit about maybe later on the podcast because it is a roguelike. Probably the most original roguelike I've ever played. I can't think of a single game that has similar gameplay and features to it, aesthetic, story, setting. Really is the most original thing. Very engaging. Not that much content compared to other roguelikes, so you're going to burn out fast. But I stuck with it. I took breaks here and there, and I really liked it. By the time I finished it, I felt like I unlocked the secrets of the universe because it demands a lot out of you.
It does.
It does. And a little anecdote about Loop Hero that I thought was really funny that I think confirms any suspicions I had of it being really easy to burn out in that game is that when the game first came out, Steam reviews, overwhelmingly positive, 98%, recommend. 2 weeks later, I checked the reviews, bumped down to very positive, which is not a big deal, but it's it's just like one threshold below overwhelmingly positive, but that kind of is a big deal between 2 weeks, because once a game is overwhelmingly positive on Steam, it kind of stays like that for a really long time. So within 2 weeks, people were actually starting to unrecommend it because they love the beginning of it, they love the amount of content, and then they saw that it didn't have as much content as other roguelikes, so they bumped down their ratings. I don't know if you knew about that.
No, I didn't. For me, I did burn out on Loop Hero, but it's mainly just because of the difficulty. It gets very hard very fast.
Yes, the every chapter, 4 chapters in the game, insane difficulty spikes. You're gonna have to really you're either gonna have to look things up or be a really good experimenter and gain some meta knowledge, because that's the only way you're gonna beat this game. But if you're willing to go through the challenge, I think it's very, very rewarding. And even if you just play, I don't know, 5-10 hours of it, I think you'll have fun.
Yeah, it is the perfect podcast game. Like if you have if you have us up on your like side monitor listening to the podcast, and then you're playing Loop Hero on your other monitor on your Switch, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, until you get to the later chapters, because the later chapters you would have, it starts off slow, and then it just accidentally snowball it. So I've been having plenty of runs where I was like, I don't know, 25 minutes in, and I was just having a breeze of a time, and then a goblin camp spawned in the wrong place, and then a vampire mansion was in another wrong place, or just monsters were spawning in the worst places for me, and immediately it went from kind of a chill experience to be like gripping the edge of my seat going, oh shit,
yeah,
I should have went back to the camp.
The way most of my runs ended in that game is me being like, oh, this is like, kind of I'm doing really well, this is kind of like an idle game, let me just set it to automatically keep going and just stop paying attention for a little bit, look back 5 minutes later, dead.
Yeah, that's what happens. You kind of, it's kind of like having a toddler.
Yeah,
you gotta kind of just keep an eye on it and make sure it's going down the right track. And that was a lot of fun. I gave that one a 9 out of 10, and the last thing I played was Castlevania Bloodlines.
Yeah, so that's the GBA ones?
That was the Genesis one. That's okay. The one I think a lot of people probably don't know it exists because it's on the Genesis.
Mm-hmm. Is it on Switch Online Genesis, or is it?
It's I have the Castlevania collection. I just played it on that. I don't know if it's on Genesis Online. I don't have that stuff.
Yeah.
But the Castlevania collection is pretty good, and I didn't really think much of it at first, because I was just like, okay, it's another retro Castlevania that I have to get through before I start Symphony of the Night, because I don't know if you know this, I'm playing through all the Castlevania games. I think I have all of them except for 64 Lords of Shadow. I'm not playing that shit. And I was just like, okay, this is one of the last ones I had to get through before I had to play Symphony of the Night, and we get to the Metroidvania style of the Castlevanias. So I was like, whatever. I started playing through it. That game's fucking awesome. That game's sick as hell.
Bloodlines?
Bloodlines.
Wow.
It's so good. It also goes by the New Generation in Europe or something like that, but the North American is Bloodlines. And I really, really liked it. I really liked Super Castlevania 4 growing up, and when I played it recently, I did not like it very much because it was really simplified. And then I played through this one, and I went, damn. This is what I remember Castlevania 4 being like, and it's my favorite Castlevania right now.
Oh, wow. That's decently high praise. I mean, I know you've played a lot of them, so.
I played most of them, except for I didn't play the 2 GBA ones, I didn't play Symphony of the Night, and I didn't play the last one they had on DS, Order of Ecclesia, but I played all the other ones, and this one is, at least for the retro ones, I don't know about the Metrovania, the style ones yet, I don't know. Those probably are too different for me to rate properly, but Bloodlines, very high up there. Very.
Okay. I have like no touchstone for Castlevania. I don't think I've ever played a Castlevania game, really, now that I think about it. My only thing is I've watched the Netflix show. That show, really damn good. Yeah, so I like the vibe of Castlevania.
Yeah, I'm thinking about watching that show. I didn't realize Castlevania was as popular as it was, because I feel like the name is popular. It's one of those series where the name is popular, but have people really played it? Do people really know what's going on in the story? That's like, I feel like not less people know about it. I looked it up. It's considered one of the greatest video game series of all time.
Yeah,
I didn't realize
definitely.
It was as popular.
I mean, I know it's very well praised. I've always wanted to play it, but I've never liked Metroidvanias at all.
Yeah.
Like, for most of my life, I actively avoided them. Like, if something had that tag on Steam or whatever, would be not interested at all.
Yeah.
But then in the last, probably 7 to 8 months, I've played through, 5 or 6 of them, and I'm starting to really enjoy them. So I bought the, basically I don't know what it's called, but it's like the Smash pack, basically, where it has Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood, and then one of the classic ones. So just because you know Alucard, you know Richter from Smash, just play their games. So I'm gonna jump into Symphony of the Night probably pretty soon. Actually,
I think I will too.
It's decently high up on my list. Maybe we'll play it at the same time.
Yeah, I'm gonna smash through Rondo of Blood at some point, and after I do Rondo of Blood, because I have the same thing you have, which is the pack. I'll play through Symphony tonight, and there's a lot. Okay, this is just the last thing I'll bring up about this before we can, because I want to hear about Final Fantasy 16.
Mm-hmm.
There's an achievement in the in that the PlayStation like bundle for Symphony of the Night, and it just says managed to eat a peanut or successfully eat a peanut, and I'm like, what does that mean? So I guess I'm gonna find out. But yeah, if you ever really want to play through a Castlevania game, but you don't really want to go through the stress of the NES ones, and you don't want to play 4, because I don't really want to play 4 ever again. That's not true. Play Bloodlines.
Yeah,
really
maybe. I think honestly, for me, as someone who's newcomer to the franchise, I'm just going to start with Symphony of the Night, because that's the one everyone says is the best one. But hearing such high praise for Bloodlines, and actually, I have this weird infatuation with the Genesis, because someone that I grew up with had a Genesis in my house, but I never was allowed to play it. So it was always
told me about this.
I always thought of that as like the other console, it was like the adult console or something like that. So I never was allowed to play it. So maybe I'll check that one out as well. But yeah, since the last episode, I talked a little bit about Final Fantasy 16, which at that point I had just done the demo and I'd watched a lot of gameplay of it, so I was like pretty okay on it. Now, they have this really cool feature on PS5. I don't know if it was implemented for God of War Ragnarok when you played it, but the games show you on the home screen how far into the game you are. It's based on like however many main missions you complete. Side content isn't included. Right now, that meter, if it's to be believed on PS5, says that I'm 75% of the way through the game, and that feels about right. I remember there's a very distinct halfway point in that game, and I've played a decent amount since then. For anyone listening who's played the game, I just got my 5th icon power, which are the big monsters, and then I did the next like main boss after that. So now I'm missing one of my party members, and that's like the point of the game I'm at. And the game just keeps growing and growing and getting better and better. I love it so much. It's honestly it's my favorite Final Fantasy because I've only played a handful of them.
Right.
Even better than 7 Remake in a weird way. I'll get to that. But it's really good.
That's high praise.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of flaws with it that are, like, they don't really take away from it, but it's enough where when I'm playing that game, I'm like, this game's really good, but it could have been better than this.
It could have been better.
And that doesn't take away from it in any way. Whereas with other games, if I see the flaws in a game that early on, usually I'm like, oh man, this is like systemic of this game isn't actually going to be that good. It doesn't bother me at all. So the only problems really I've been having with it so far are that, like, first off, performance isn't that good, but that's just kind of how games are nowadays, I guess, which fucking sucks.
You would think that by 2023, that didn't feel nice to say.
Yeah, right. We're already halfway through it.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think that by then we would have like kind of figured that out. But I feel like every 5 years, someone says that. They go, it's this year, and they haven't figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
And are we ever?
Then my other complaints with it are that the world is really big, and it is technically, in the loosest term of the word, an open world. Because almost all the areas are connected. You could walk from one area to the next without going through very little loading screens.
Right.
There's not much incentive to actually explore the world, though. And I feel like a lot of the time you see like a corridor that branches off, and you're like, oh, I could go do that now, or I could wait until 10 hours from now when there's one side quest that takes me there to get one item.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not very rewarding to explore, so I don't know why they even bothered making it as open as it is. And then the other thing is that the more I play it, the more I realize it is just not an RPG.
Yeah.
It is just an action game. But so I have the 5 icons now, which means that I have over 15, but like I think each icon has at least 4 abilities. So what's that? Like 20 abilities or so, plus a couple extra ones here and there for other things. And you can mix and match them however you want. So you can have a build. Like I've done one where all my abilities were built around countering. So every time an enemy attacks me, I activate a different ability that either counters a projectile or counts a heavy hit or counters a bunch of light hits or deflects, anything like that.
Right.
And I did one that was all built up on like projectiles and stagger damage. So I just hit a bunch of buttons at the beginning of a fight and a million flashing lights come out of me and stagger all the enemies, and then I just hack away at them. So you can really tailor what abilities you're going to use, but that's about the extent of the art, like the role-playing element of it. So it's, in my opinion, it's more like selecting a different character in an action game than it is making a build. But what were you going to say?
I was going to say, because this kind of reminds me. It's actually I just had this revelation right now, because you're saying that this doesn't really feel like a role playing game, or it has like lacking role playing elements. Stranger of Paradise is actually probably more of a clean cut RPG than Final Fantasy 16. Because I don't know how much footage you've seen of Stranger of Paradise, how much you know about Stranger of Paradise. There's a job system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I've heard a lot of people really like the gameplay in that game, but not so much the story.
Yeah, not so much the story. And honestly, the more I hear about Final Fantasy 16, I'm very interested in Final Fantasy 16, but my interest in it isn't like substantially rising or lowering. I'm kind of just like, I'm very interested in 16, and I'm happy with that. I'm like, oh, all right, I'm gonna get to it when I get to it. My interest is rising. For Stranger of Paradise, the more I hear about 16, for some reason...
I gotta tell you, mine is as well. And I went to the Classic Game Junkie looking for a cheap copy the other day, and I didn't find one.
Yeah.
I also looked on Prime Day, and they had it for $20. Still couldn't really justify it. But
we might have to try that. I think it might be a good idea.
So, okay. That's where the end of my major complaints come in. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just nitpicking about, like... It's completely voice acted, but some of the voice acting isn't as good as the rest. So I would have rather just been text. Small nitpicks. Mm-hmm. That's the end of my complaints.
Right.
This game, not to overhype it for you and blow you out of the water, you should play it as soon as you can.
Really.
It is a moment game. It is one of those things where you will not want to get spoiled as to some of the things that happen in this game's story, in the game's gameplay, in some of these bombastic icon boss battles. They are some of the most memorable moments in gaming that I can't imagine being topped this year, even by Tears of the Kingdom, which had some of the greatest moments of all time, just of like exploration and stuff.
Yeah, exploration, but this is like really.
I would say if Tears of the Kingdom is a consistent, this is one of the greatest things I've ever played in my life. Flat line. Final Fantasy 16 is like so many dips and so many peaks, where the peaks make me, when I'm playing these. Either the icon fights or when I'm just experiencing the world building and the story and a lot of the interactions with the characters, I'm like, this might be the greatest game I've ever played in my life. Like, #1 game of all time.
That's crazy.
Like, not quality, but of how much I like it, how much it's making me feel good, how much I enjoy playing it.
Right.
But then it's quickly followed up with, a couple hours of, this is good. It's kind of just like a game, like it's content. There's content there. Granted, a lot of that content is optional, and I could skip and go straight from all the great highs to the great highs with very little in between. But I like doing everything. I'm kind of conflicted with this game. The reason I say so far that I'm liking it more than 7 Remake is mainly because I know the story a little bit better because of the way they build out the world, and it's not based on your prior knowledge of Midgar and of FF7 and knowing all that stuff. Like, they do such a good job at building out that world and making you feel like the character to the point where just because it's not an RPG in the way that you get stats and the way that you get gear and everything, I do feel like I'm like being immersed in this world enough to call it a role-playing game.
Yeah.
And
even that definition is
okay, yeah, so, I know, but you know what I mean.
Know?
And like I love being in the game.
Yeah.
There's so many side quests. And I've done all of them. I have done every single side quest in this game, which I never do. I've done all the optional hunts, which are just like little, monsters that you can go after.
That's my type of shit.
I've done all of those, which I also never do. And it's not like I'm waiting until I'm bored and then I go and find them and do them. As soon as they give me the option to do them, I'm doing them because I just want to chill. I want to be in this game for as long as possible. It is one of the most memorable games of all time, to the point where I think 10 years from now, no matter what games I'm playing, no matter what I'm into then, I'm still going to go on YouTube. I'm still going to do replays of this game to go to those specific peak moments and just relive how I felt at that time.
Something about this is that, and then here's another thing, that Final Fantasy 16's timeline so far is just, it's reminding me of other games, right? And that whole rant reminded me of my time with Final Fantasy 15. The more I see about Final Fantasy 16, I think about Final Fantasy 15 because they're very similar in like just kind of nature. And I felt that exact thing because that was like really my first traditional, not traditional, whatever. My first mainline Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
First mainline Final Fantasy game I ever played, and I felt the exact same way. It blew me away. Even though the so many people in the community were like, this is not a very good game, and even me playing it, I was like, well, that was weird, and I didn't really like that very much. I still go back to Final Fantasy 15. I still reminisce about it. I still look up those cutscenes on YouTube. The ending of Final Fantasy 15, specifically the final cutscene, still consistently makes me cry. One of the only scenes like that can like really just get me. Like no matter what, gets me day in day out, no matter where I am. And I think you're just. I think part of this might be you're experiencing the magic of Final Fantasy. I think everyone has that moment.
I do think that's definitely a part of it, especially because I'm learning about I've known of the Marlboros and the Dragoons and the Moogles and all that, but they're not really in FF7 that way. So this is my first experience with all of that. But I don't know if I would equate that necessarily. Like you have to play it obviously to tell me because I've never played 15.
Right.
Although I've seen a lot of stuff about 15 of like should I play this game, shouldn't I? Because I own it. And all the weird stuff, all the stuff where they're like, why did they make this decision? Or why did they do this in the story? Or why did this fight kind of end that way? All those like hesitations or hangups in 16 are refined to like, that was a weird side quest. Mm-hmm. Every single main quest is, no notes. Really? From start to finish, gameplay and story, literally I couldn't think of a way they could do it better.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's how you felt about 15, but I haven't seen anyone so far complaining about the weirdness. And the only weirdness I've seen comes from like side content just not living up to the hype.
I think I feel the same way about 15 the way you feel about 16. Okay. I still loved it, and the hang-ups and the notes I have never really bothered me. Of course, the only big difference is that I think the hang-ups and issues of 15 are probably way more tangible than the one seen in 16. It seems like they kind of really ironed out 16 to be as polished as possible. But that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting. Yeah. I feel like we are feeling the same thing for different games, and that kind of puts me at ease for 16.
Okay.
That makes me feel confident in it. Even though I haven't played it, I can't imagine that I'm going to pick it up. Mr. Pessimist over here. I'm always I'm always looking at like some shit that I don't like, but I really can't think of anything, anymore about being. I can't imagine picking up 16 and being like, oh man, this one's fucking stinker. I think I'm gonna like it.
Yeah, so I do recommend you go find your way to a copy of it as soon as possible. Like I said, you can borrow mine for a little bit if you want. It is worth playing very soon, so you can be a part of that conversation about all of these moments without getting spoiled.
Yeah.
And anyone who just can't afford it or whatever, whenever you see it go on sale, I would put this pretty high up there. It's not gonna go down as like, God of War 2018, Tears of the Kingdom, like these games that when someone's like, I need to start playing video games, what should I play? It's probably not going to be amongst those, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And I like it for that, because I see what's wrong with it, and I see how it can improve. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that maybe some DLC comes through and helps with that, but it's not, all things considered, it's just a consistently quality game.
Yeah. That makes me excited. That makes me excited to play. And you know what? I think... Do you already own 15?
I do. I have the Royal Edition.
I think you should play it at some point.
I'm going to.
You know what? Just do don't go into it expecting a lot. I would just say I think you should play 15 as just a very casual experience and see how you like it, because I think there's a good chance that you'll really, really enjoy it. Mm-hmm. As much as 16, who knows? But I think you're going to find a lot to like in 15 if you like 16.
I liked what I did play of 15. I honestly did like the auto attack system and auto dodge. I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm excited to get back to it.
I just like the cast.
That was good. The boy band.
Yeah, the boy bands.
But yeah. All right. That's enough about Final Fantasy and what we've been playing. I think it's time we get into the topic of the show, don't you think?
Yeah.
Okay. So this week, we're talking about roguelikes. Now, what does that mean? Doesn't really matter, but I think let's talk about, you mentioned earlier, roguelike, roguelite. So roguelike is a term that came about because of the game Rogue. Have you ever played Rogue?
No, have you?
I have played Rogue.
Really?
It's actually pretty fun.
That's crazy.
All things considered, it's actually pretty fun. It's a super old game. I don't even know how old it is, to be honest with you, but it's...
In 1980, I just saw it today.
Okay, so it's a text-based game where you're just you're literally like a little @ sign, like the ampersand, not the ampersand, but like the email @ sign, walking around a bunch of dots and dashes, and then like an S will come out, and that's a snake, and it bounces around, and you have to attack it.
ASCII graphic. I call it ASCII.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Is that not what it's called?
I heard somebody say ASC2. over the past 2 weeks, we were talking about something like that. I was talking about Dwarf Fortress with somebody, and they referred to it as ASC2, and I was like sitting in the corner. I was about to join in the conversation. I went, oh, fuck.
Yeah, wait.
I've been calling it ASCII my whole life.
I've called it ASCII my whole life as well.
It might be a regional thing. I don't know how regional the pronunciation of a term like ASCII could be, but it seems like there might be.
Either way, it's super old game, but it was the first of its kind that took like the idea of a text adventure, made it into a somewhat graphical representation, and then because the guy was making the game, from what I understand, the guy was making the game for himself.
Yeah.
But he didn't want it to be completely spoiled for himself because he knew everything. He developed an algorithm to make it randomly generated. So every time you played the game, the map that you were walking around in was random. The items you would come upon were randomly decided. The enemies were placed in random places, and random enemies swapped between everything. But the biggest part of it was that you played it until you were done. Yeah. And when you died, you died. That was it. Or until you beat the game, and you beat the game. And you could just start it over again, and it'd be completely different. So, in general, what we're talking about today are roguelike games that are randomly generated or have a overwhelming sense of randomness and permadeath, or the idea that whenever you finish the game, you start it over and play again.
Yeah.
Now, earlier you mentioned roguelite with a T. No one really cares. You can use the terms interchangeably.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that roguelite is a randomly influenced game where there's no permadeath. Is that how you see it?
Kind of. I mean, even a lot of roguelikes now don't even implement a true permadeath system because it's, permanent upgrades and shit like that. Rogue Legacy has those permanent upgrades that don't go away even after you die, even though you start a new character and you start the dungeon from fresh.
So is that what it was? Is that like why they made the distinction for like games with permanent upgrades were roguelite?
I think so. My personal definition is where a roguelike is where the gameplay heavily relies on everything being randomized and following these algorithms to make them randomized. So Binding of Isaac, Gungeon, where the map is completely different, the character, the guns you find are completely different, blah, blah, blah. And then roguelite is from what I can tell, is where the game isn't entirely reliant on these mechanics. Maybe one specific part, maybe the map is just changed or something like that every time you play the game, but your character never changes. There's no permadeath or something like that.
Okay.
It's like a ratio. How much of the game is randomized? Are the mechanics that are randomized extremely important to the game? Are they just, I don't fucking know, loot when you go to a blacksmith and you upgrade it, do you get random stat effects? That doesn't make it a roguelike, but does the rest of the game mechanics depend on it? Then it's a rogue,
Fair enough.
It's based on a ratio.
I think as long as we know that we're primarily today going to be talking about games with permadeath. Yeah. I think that's kind of the genre defining aspect right there.
I think I wrote it in my notes. Wikipedia says, what gameplay elements explicitly define a roguelike games remains a point of debate within the video game community. So there is no consensus, permanent, correct consensus. So just try to keep up with us. I think we'll do our best.
This is the same that every debate we've had about a genre has come to, where it just doesn't matter. You know what
it doesn't matter.
It's like porn. You know when you see it.
Yeah, you know when you see it.
You know what we're talking about. One last thing about roguelikes, though, is that I don't know when that term came into my understanding and my lexicon, but I'd say between 2012 and 2018, every single indie game was a roguelite. That's not true, but it blew up.
Oh, it might be.
It blew up so impossibly popular in such a short period of time. And I think we actually disagree on the ramifications of that. So,
what do you mean by that?
Do you think I know you've talked about this before. You think that the roguelike genre is super oversaturated?
I do. I really do.
I don't.
Why is that?
Because maybe at one point there were too many roguelites coming out. They all, for the most part, really did do something different with the genre that made it its own thing. And nowadays, in the 2020s at least, anytime a game comes out and is announced as a roguelike or that it has roguelike elements or a mode, I see that as a net positive. I get excited for that most of the time nowadays.
It might be because I was kind of burned a lot, because it really, I think roguelikes, I think the amount of the problem with oversaturation, the amount of roguelikes that have come out that are shitty is really just parallel to the amount of games that come out are shitty. I think it's just it's a trend in video games. Roguelikes are really popular. The same amount of shitty games that came out are probably the same. It's just these happen to be roguelikes. And I just got burned a lot at a certain period of time when I was growing up, when I was like 14, 15, where I would just be like, oh, this game's a roguelike, I want to play it. And it would just be by a developer who didn't really want to go through making a fully designed game, so they decided to do roguelike instead, even if it wasn't really inspired and the mechanics didn't really feel like they matched a roguelike. And for a while, it felt like some developers were just making roguelikes to save on dev time as kind of like a lazy way to do it. But that's not a problem with the genre. It's not the genre's fault. It's the developer's fault for making a lackluster product and not putting into care to make well-designed procedurally generated maps.
I suppose. And yeah, that's the problem that I see with roguelikes, is that when I see a game get announced as one or an element, I am excited for it, but I see roguelikes very similar to the way I talked about JRPGs in the last episode, where when I like one, I commit myself to that one and learn as much as I can about that specific game's mechanics. So then when I move on to the next one, if it does anything remotely different, I'm like, oh, it's too much. I can't do it. Yeah, I can't do it. And it's hard for me. So I'm curious, like, how many games do you think maybe you just didn't get deep enough into some of them to realize what made them special?
No, I really did just play some shitty ones.
Okay, fair enough. Like what comes to mind?
One that comes to mind is Magicite.
Oh, I have that game.
You have that game?
Yeah,
I think everyone has that game.
It was like super cheap, probably.
It's dirt cheap because it's not very good. And I remember I was playing it and I was like waiting for it to. I just kind of like mindlessly played through it, kept dying in the first areas. I was like, ooh, I can't wait for it to get good. I can't wait for it to get good. It never got good. It never got good. And I was like actually pretty upset about that. And I think, I really like Prey, the 2017 Prey game. I don't know. I think you said you tried to play it and you didn't really like it?
Yeah, I got decently way through it. I just wasn't wrong place, wrong time. I'll get back to it.
I really liked Prey.
They have a roguelike mode, right?
They do. And I'm going to bring that up because I liked Prey because it was weird. It was very interesting to me. It was something... It felt new. It felt fresh, even though it wasn't really that, like, out of pocket. And I really liked it. And I went, ooh, Moon Crash. Roguelike mode? Yeah. Oh, I would love that. And it has one of my favorite announcement trailers.
Oh, yeah, it's real good.
Yeah, I love that announcement trailer so much. I watched it so many times. I started playing it. It's just lame. It's just like, it's a part of roguelike to me is, oh, I want to see different shit. Nothing changed between the runs. It was the same map. It was just the enemies were sometimes different. It was really bizarre. There's a game that I'm kind of playing through here and there, Vagant. It's a pretty fun game. It's very similar to Spelunky, but there's not enough variety between the runs. There's nothing to unlock. You're not unlocking shit like tangible upgrades and, Rogue Legacy, Binding of Isaac. I unlock these characters, I unlock these items, I make these upgrades, I do this, I have a new blacksmith, I have this guy in my hub. There's no hub. Yeah. There's no things to unlock.
No carrot on a stick.
Yeah, no carrot on a stick.
It's more like an arcade game.
Yeah, it's more of an arcade game, but it's designed as a roguelike, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, well, I just lost. 40 minutes down the drain, I just lost, and the only thing I can expect going forward is that I'm going to start the game and play it exactly the same, except I think my helmet might give me lightning resistance this time.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've played a decent number of roguelites that don't have persistent upgrades and still was able to enjoy them a lot. But it does take away the drive to, like, learn more about it.
It does. It's, it just kind of, it feels weak, And I like Vagant, and let me make that clear. I didn't like Moon Crash. I did not like Moon Crash. I didn't like Magicite, but I like Vagant. I think it's, like, a net positive gain in my life. I went, oh, I really like this... blah, blah, blah. But I don't think it's a very strong roguelike.
Yeah. I think there's something valuable about those kinds of games, though, because it is, like you said, you play through it here and there. You just pop in and pop out. That's kind of what it's for. Like, when we were preparing a roguelike episode, I was thinking, like, oh, what are some of my favorite roguelikes? So I started going through my GG app and looking at what I've been playing recently. And I thought, not one of my favorites, but so in the second wave of DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they added a roguelike mode. And it's super basic. Like you said, the map doesn't change. All that changes is you fight enemies in waves, and the enemies change, and then between waves you get unlocks of like your sword does more damage, your magic does more damage, here's another party member, and it's random like that. And I thought of it more as like, this is like an arcade mode that's built off roguelike principles. And it was pretty, for what it was, I was like, there's a nice arcade mode.
Yeah.
Now, if that's a whole game, I don't know where that falls for me personally, but I think there is value in that.
I completely agree with you. I love that. I eat that shit up. If it's an extra mode in a video game, I eat that shit
Except
up.
Moon Crash.
Except Moon Crash, yeah. I could talk about Moon Crash for a while, but I won't. Moon Crash really just put me off, but I love that. I typically love that type of shit in a video game, especially if the combat is really good. Kind of reminds me of like the Devil May Cry, Bloody Arenas, Bloody Palace. It's just an arena, and you go through it as randomly generated enemies, and that's it. You just go in and have fun. But, you know, if you, just like you said, if you make a full game out of it, that's where it becomes dicey.
Yeah.
Because you have to, are you going to put in the amount of care that it requires? And I think a lot of it is because I was probably spoiled by the greats. I was spoiled by Isaac, Gungeon, hill.the.thrill. They did so much work to pioneer roguelikes when it was becoming really, really popular. So when a game comes out now and like the main selling point is like, this is a roguelike, I'm like, oh no. Because I'm like, oh shit, are they gonna be able to really figure that out? Because it takes some smart guys to
a lot of play testing.
That's
really where a lot of this comes in. The QA and everything. That's really where you find out what's fun, what's balanced, and all that stuff.
It takes so much time and care to, because really it's all these systems. You have to create a system that makes fun. You're not making the fun anymore. You're creating a machine that makes you the fun, that makes you have these procedural experiences. And if you don't put in that care, then it's just, falls flat.
That system has to work with all the other systems, and none of them can break each other and everything. It's quite complex.
You can't have a lazy developer come in and go, oh, we're going to do roguelike because it's popular and it's going to save us dev time. We don't have to actually do we don't have to do traditional game design. If you do that, then you're fucked. But if you go in with a vision, you go, I kind of want this to happen in my systems to come together, then you're going to have a good one. But if, just like everything else, you don't actually give a shit, it's not going to be good.
True. All right, well, speaking of the greats, why don't I'm going to share some of my favorites, you're going to share some of your favorites. We're going to talk about all the roguelites that made us who we are.
Yes.
So I think we got to start off. Today we're talking about roguelites, and we're going to talk about the daddy of all roguelites, which is The Binding of Isaac. So what is your history with The Binding of Isaac?
I played the Flash version when in like 2011, and I don't know why the fuck I was even exposed to that game, because that game is so popular, it's so wide-reaching and influential, despite its subject matter. Yeah. Its subject matter is completely bizarre, and morbid.
Poopy, pee-pee, killing babies.
Naked, creatures, abominations. What the fuck is going on?
It's like a social commentary on religion. And abuse.
It's completely bizarre. And I think I saw PewDiePie play it.
Ooh.
And I went,
I
think a lot of people picked Isaac up because of PewDiePie. That's my sneaking suspicion. Or maybe other YouTubers, because it was popular at the time. But it was popular because it was like, I remember it was so popular because it was actually like a good game.
Yeah.
Because I feel like now that could be like, oh, I play as a naked kid in a basement getting chased by his religious mom, and there's all religious items. That seems to be the draw of the game. That was not the draw of the game when it came out.
It was a fun game.
It's just a fun game.
Which also, okay, looking back on, have you gone back to Flash Isaac recently?
Yeah.
The game's not really that good.
No,
It is. We're not going to pretend it's not. But it's
good, but it's a permanent 15 frames per second. Yeah. I feel like I'm playing Ocarina of Time. Yeah. And Ocarina of Time at least ran at 20.
So I got introduced. I love roguelites. Like, I don't know if I expressed this enough. Roguelites are one of my favorite genres because back in the day, so I was looking at when I started Isaac and everything. My friend Pierce, who I grew up with, like we had the same babysitter when we were like less than 1 year old. So we've known each other forever.
Yeah.
He came to me one day and he was like, dude, check out this game. It's called The Binding of Isaac. It's free on Newgrounds. I was like, what?
Oh shit! It was on Newgrounds?
There was a free demo on Newgrounds. I believe you could only go through the basement. And then you fought Monstro, and then it was like, thanks for playing the game.
Right.
And it didn't have any items. It was like a very bare bones version of it. I was like, this is awesome. And my friend, he was super into roguelikes at the time. I don't know, he must have had a YouTuber that he watched, maybe PewDiePie, but probably someone more like Northern Lion or someone like that, where he was into Splunky. I don't know when Splunky came out, but like over time, I remember him being really into all these roguelike games, and he was always the guy who was like, you gotta play these roguelikes. You gotta play them. They're so fun. But I didn't have a PC, a gaming PC. So I played Binding of Isaac on my family computer, and I fell in love with it. And so...
Oh no, the family computer hit the space bar, mom's bra item.
Yeah, yeah, that was a bit. But very quickly after I got Isaac, I got Steam on my family computer to get Isaac. I was playing it. I think I looked at my achievements. I think I beat the basement, which is the first level, for the first time in like July of 2012 or something like that. I didn't beat the game. I didn't beat I didn't beat Satan at the time until like 2013, like a year and a half later. I couldn't believe it. Because that game was just so hard for me at the time, but I couldn't stop playing it. I literally played it at least like very often. Like I would at least come back to it once a month and just play it all the time. I got a gaming computer, and by gaming computer I mean I got a computer that could feasibly run games for like $200 or something back in the day just to play Isaac, and it was awesome. It made me who I am today, really, in the way I fell in love with indie games, the way I started following the roguelike genre, and then moving into Rebirth. I want to hear about your experience with Rebirth as well, but like I played so many roguelike indie games on my computer because of Isaac that by the time Rebirth was coming out, I had completely made indie games my thing. Yeah. Because of this game.
I think indie games should be everybody's thing. Just like how... I probably told you this before, but I'm always like, oh, you should always go to local restaurants, because when you get food at a local restaurant, you know that there's going to be a lot of care put into it because their lives literally depend on it. You go to a chain, you go to McDonald's, you give them a shitty sandwich, you get downvote the McDonald's on Google, on Yelp, and the McDonald's goes down. You know, that's not a big deal. You don't like someone's sandwich at the local deli? Oh, fuck. That's not good. That's not good. That's their business. That's all they got. And that's the same thing with indie games. AAA developer, they release a stinker. That sucks. Oh, indie game developer releases a stinker. Oh no. Yeah. They cannot pay their rent anymore. So
but yeah,
they care.
Isaac put me on to indie games, and then that was all I played for so long. When Rebirth was coming out, which was the most recent remaster-ish of it, I followed it every day. I was on the blog. I knew everything about that game. I bought a PS Vita to play this game. To play Rebirth.
That was probably a sick way to play it, too.
It was the best way to play it until it came to Switch.
Right.
Binding of Isaac, if you include Flash, Rebirth, and Afterbirth, or what's called Repentance on Switch, if you combine all those together, it's my most played video game of all time.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how it is for you, how much you played Rebirth when that came out. I think this might be... It's not my favorite game of all time, but it might be the best game that I consistently go back to.
I think the game I put the most hours into is Monster Hunter Worlds. But Isaac is still one of the games I put the most consistent hours into. I think I have 250 over since when Rebirth came out. And when Rebirth was like in development, I didn't even know it came out, because I knew about it. It got announced. And I saw that it was like a remake. I was like, oh, they're remaking it? Oh, this is I love these graphics, because I was getting really into pixel graphics at the time, and I still am. And I was like, oh man, this looks awesome. I better keep an eye on that. But that was like, you know, that was at the point of gaming where games were just being announced, and then they fucked off for 6 years.
True.
So I kind of forgot about it, and then one day I woke up on a chilly December afternoon, and I saw that the game was out, and I was like, huh? And it was out for like 3 months. I was like, what the fuck? So I started playing it, and Rebirth, you know, absolutely blows the first one out of the water. Yeah. And, you know, it's kind of amazing that I really think that Binding of Isaac, Rebirth specifically, like, that's the roguelike.
Yeah.
Can anybody make that same type of consensus for... What's the best RPG? What's the best shooter? What's the best roguelike? I feel like everyone's like, most people are going to go, it's Isaac.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, like, a lot of people who started playing roguelites after Isaac had kind of started to taper off towards their Rebirth expansions and stuff like that, they don't some of them haven't even played Binding of Isaac. Like, they know it. If you like ask them, what's like the best roguelites of all time, they'll bring it up. But I don't think it's as clear cut to people nowadays.
Probably not, no.
The influence that it had. Because let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. Like, they really hit their stride with Rebirth, but like Isaac is always a carrot on a stick. There's always something to be unlocking.
Yeah.
So even if you fuck up a run really bad, there's always something you could do to help you in your next run or your run after that. There's always a character to unlock. The characters make you play completely differently for the most part. There's so many characters. There's so many items.
And they all the characters have their own set of unlocks to really incentivize you to play those characters, go down all the different pathways, and unlock that, one new item that's going to completely change how you play the game. Whenever you see that item, you're going to go, this is my new favorite item.
Yeah.
And I didn't unlock it until 80 hours into my playtime.
Like, I've never gotten Golden God or Platinum God, got all the items in the game. I just play.
That's crazy. That's
I never have. I have 400 hours in Isaac combined, and I've never even finished all the challenges.
I haven't either. Some of the challenges are
But okay, I'm saying, like, I'm never 100% in the game. I've never done anything like that. I just play it to play it and see if I unlock something, and I love it. When I first started out Isaac on Flash on my computer, I really thought it was just like, oh, you just have to get lucky if you want to win. But as the years have gone on, as the hours have gone by, the more I realized that even though luck does play a decent amount into it, you can win almost any run.
Yeah.
And what makes Binding of Isaac special is that it's a perfect combination of, like, knowing what the items do, knowing everything there is about the game, strategy of knowing what items you could get, what you should do to get the best chance at getting what you need, skill of actually playing the twin stick shooting, like moment to moment action, and then knowing how to make your own luck.
Yeah.
And like all that comes together so beautifully. I love it.
And just that, that little sliver of bullshit, just to just to keep you on edge. It always makes every run unique. Getting those spike rooms, man. The one where you walk next to it, it goes.
Oh my god,
hits you.
Dude.
You always have to have a shitty room to put you on edge and be like, okay, I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention.
All right, so I think that wraps up our discussion about Binding of Isaac. So unless you have anything else to add, I think that's probably going to end the podcast.
Yeah, I guess so. A bit short this time, huh?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soft Lock Podcast. Sorry, we are a bit late this week. Jake was in the Colorado wilderness, and I kind of want to ask you about that, but I just kind of really want to jump into the topic of roguelikes today. Roguelikes are games that are heavily reliant on randomization, procedural generation. They're different each time you play them. We have a very deep history of roguelikes, right? Yeah, very deep history of roguelikes. And I gotta say, my favorite roguelike... Can you guess? Can you take a wild guess?
Is it Binding of Isaac?
No, actually, I haven't played that one. Binding of Isaac? No, but I have played a lot of Enter the Gungeon.
Enter the Gungeon is fantastic.
Enter the Gungeon is really fantastic, and it's also really funny. That's honestly one of my big... On my notes, it says funny.
It is quite funny.
Yeah, funny and polished to a T. Enter the Gungeon, for people who have not played it, it's this roguelike game where these people from across the galaxy, it's very cute too. If you look up like the visuals, it's just these cute little chibi people. They go to a dungeon called the Gungeon in like the center of the galaxy or something like that. Mm-hmm. They're all individuals with troubled pasts, and they go to the Gungeon because they heard a myth about a gun that can kill their past.
Gun that can kill the past.
Yes, a gun that can kill the past. So they all go to the Gungeon.
Coolest thing ever.
And everything in this Gungeon is gun related. All the enemies, the basic enemies are bullets. They're bullets that hold a gun. So you'll have like a shotgun shell that shoots a shotgun.
Some of them are bullets that fire themselves.
Some of them are bullets that fire. Yeah. There's bullets that fire themselves. There's some of them are just birds that don't have anything to do with guns.
They have grenades in their belly, right? That's what they shoot
out.
Like
they blow. Yeah, they blow up. There's slimes and stuff like that, but they turn into guns. There's all the items are like puns. There's an item. One of my favorite items in the game is the lowercase r.
Oh my god, it's so good.
It shoots out a stream of bullets that are letters that spell out bullet, and whenever you fire the gun, it goes bullet, and it's awesome. And then if you get a synergy, you can make it say other words.
Oh really?
Yeah. If you have you played what's it called? What version have you played?
I couldn't really tell you. My Gungeon knowledge is very sparse. I got into it pretty soon after the game came out.
Mm-hmm.
I got really into it. I never even beat the dragon or anything. I never beat the
Yeah, it's
game.
hard.
But I tried to learn a lot about it. I got really into it probably for about a year, maybe like 6 months,
Right.
and then I kind of fell off of it. So
Yeah, well, okay. So in that case, there was an update they made during its life cycle. It's over now. It had its last update. It had its run, and it's still very good to come back to. You can play Exit the Gungeon too, but people didn't really like that one that much. But there was an update during its life cycle where there's something called synergies, and I've heard in Isaac the synergies are like you get an item and it completely changes the way like you attack or whatever, right?
It's like hard coded to completely like do something unique instead of it being randomly generated.
Yeah, that's what it does in Gungeon. It completely hard codes your weapon. So if you get a silver bullet, there's an item called a silver bullet, and it does extra damage. Your lowercase r sometimes says a different word. So instead of saying bullet, I think it says
silver was it?
I might have to look it up, but it says something werewolf related. It goes like either like a woo or like die monster or some shit like that, and it's full of shit like that.
My favorite gun is the beehive.
Oh, the beehive!
It melts bosses, and it's so funny. I also like. I'm trying to think of what other guns are really good in there. I like the Plants vs Zombies pea shooter.
Oh
well.
yeah,
really like that
one's really good. And if you synergize that one's amazing. And the reason why Enter the Gungeon is probably my favorite. I don't think it's the best roguelike because it definitely has some flaws, but it's my favorite because it really feels like it has some of the best variety in a roguelike.
Yeah.
Every run feels like it has a story and really kind of vibe to it. Every upgrade feels really, really significant. You of course get less upgrades than most of the other roguelikes, and the game is much slower paced. So doing those repeat runs can kind of get a bit like, oh man.
It's more methodical.
Very much more methodical, but the upgrades that you get and the guns you find are so much more tangible. And there's so much shit in that game that they made super, super rare. I have over 100 hours in the game, almost 200 hours in the game, and there's stuff that I just can't find. The rainbow chest.
I was about to say, have you ever gotten a rainbow chest?
I've not.
Wait. I have.
No, I have not gotten a rainbow chest. I've gotten a glitch chest.
Ooh, what is
which is... The glitch chest is kind of fucked up, because I think it's even more rare than the rainbow chest, but it doesn't give you anything. Well, I mean, it does. So it's a glitch chest, and I got it like really early into my Gungeon run, into my Gungeon playtime, so I wasn't very good. So it teleports you to a unique boss fight. It's a beholster, but there's two of them. You can fight two beholsters at the same time, and they're glitched, and like they're much more difficult. And I died. And apparently it gives you a lot of good rewards if you do beat it. But I died, and that was like within the first 6 hours of my playtime. So of course I wasn't going to do very well. I was dying to the normal enemies.
Yeah.
And guess what? I've never found it again.
Yep.
So they kind of had to buff up some of those numbers.
When the Switch version came out, I got on that. My good friend Aiden is obsessed with Gungeon. It's one of his favorite games of all time. And I was playing co-op with him because the local co-op in that game is actually really good. It's very well thought out. But so I was playing that, and we got a rainbow chest. He was like, dude, no. You got to like just set down the controller. Let me do this. He's like, we have to win this run. We can't let it.
If you're given a rainbow chest and you squander it, it's like the most painful thing in the universe. That's a big thing with roguelikes. Getting that one thing, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do it, and then you fuck it up, and you don't even want to pick up the game anymore.
Yeah, it sucks.
A lot of stuff like that happens in Gungeon, but Gungeon really has so much tangible content. It has less of those like moment-to-moment gameplay things that most of the roguelikes are known for, but it really feels like it has a lot of really well thought out, well designed content, extra modes, extra characters.
I like how you are really, really rewarded for learning about all that weird niche stuff. So like, isn't something with like the shopkeeper and the rat? Or like you can, there's some like stuff with them where you can get like an extra key, or it's like if you don't go to the shop, because if you go to the shop, then you won't find another key on the floor or something like that. Like all those little things.
That's another big thing about roguelikes that is very important to its identity. It says it on the Wikipedia definition, and I take that as you will. But part of it says it's a steep difficulty spike, or no, I'm sorry, steep learning curve.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. I love it when roguelikes have a very high skill cap. I feel like I can become, I've said this last time, I love it when a video game lets me become the master. When I'm done with the game, the expert, there we go. I love it when I'm finished with the game and I go, I am the expert. I am an authority on this, and this game has allowed me to do that. And Gungeon is one of those things. There's so much shit that you can find that you can only do by going out of your way and putting a lot of time into it, including the resourceful rat boss fight. Do you know about that?
I do, yeah.
Oh my fucking! I still can't do that.
Really?
That so many hours into the game, I cannot get to the fight because you have to be so careful with your spending, because you need to afford the keys to actually get to the guy, but you also need the same amount of resources. Like you need a certain amount of blanks. You need a certain amount of like items or whatever, keys, and then you need the special key. But you also need to be spending keys and bullets, shells, which is the currency, to make sure that you're above the enemies and you're staying alive for the enemies. Mm-hmm. It's so difficult, and I still haven't figured out how to do it.
The thing about Gungeon, there's two things that I really think make it stand above all the other roguelites, even Binding of Isaac, which I do have a special place in my heart for it. I think this exceeds it far beyond, is that its visual and auditory and music presentation it might be the best. I've never played Dead Cells. I do like the way Dead Cells looks and the music in that. But Gungeon, like the music is so fucking good. And the visuals are... There's so many particle effects. There's so many layers. There's so many custom animations for just like items on the ground that I wouldn't have expected. That really, really attention to detail makes it really cool.
It's a nice art style. It's cute.
It is so super cute. The other thing I like about it is that the hegemony credits.
Oh.
I like how... you're rewarded.
Is that how you pronounce it?
How would you hegemony? I don't know.
I could say hegemony.
I would say hegemony, but I don't know. Doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Whatever, the credits.
Yeah, the credits.
It's like you're rewarded in that game only for beating bosses. Mm-hmm. Like you can barely unlock any items or anything from just playing the game. You have to get good at the bosses.
Yeah.
And that means that your controller is shaking when you're getting to those bosses, but when you beat one, you get a bunch of these currency that you can go back and unlock the items you want. You get to choose what items you want to unlock, and that's really cool.
And it has one of the best end game unlocks I've ever seen in a video game. I always love it when you do so much of the content, when you do almost all the content or all the content, the game goes, here you go. Here's the last thing we have for you. It's going to change the way you do it.
What is it?
It is the final character. So there's 6 characters in the game. So you have to start with 4. Mm-hmm. And then there's the Bullet, which is really fun.
Bulletkin.
Yeah, the Bulletkin. And then there's the Robot. Those are the 2 unlockables. And then the secret unlockable character is... there's 2. There's the Anomaly, or I think it's the Paradox, which is the most roguelike character there is. Mm-hmm. You start out with a random passive ability, a random gun, and I think a random active item. And so it's not really a defined character. It's completely random, kind of like Eden in Isaac, so I've heard. And if you beat the game... Okay, this is going to be really hard to explain. Throughout your run, on any random run, there should be, in some part of the map, a pool of space. It's like as if you spilled green screen on the floor, and it's just the texture of space. Hit E on that, your character becomes the texture of space. Mm-hmm. Beat the game and not beat the dragon. You have to beat the real final boss, the Lich, right? And then the game restart, and you're playing the game as the gunslinger, which is supposed to be the Lich before he became the Lich. And the Lich starts out with this really cool starting item where it's just a revolver. It's a really nice revolver, and then when you run out of ammo, you throw it, and it does more damage. But his passive item is... So the way synergies work in the game is that when you get an item, and then you get another specific item, it has to match up. You do a synergy, and those 2 items change. The Lich, every item you pick up, if there is a synergy for it, automatically does that synergy. You do not need the other item to do it. So... And you have to pay 5 credits to play as him every time. But I can't play as the other characters anymore because I love playing as a Lich. I love just going in, picking up any random basic weapon that I usually wouldn't even bat an eye at, and it's just automatically synergized. Shit that I've never seen before because it's so difficult to find 2 items that actually synergize that you haven't seen before, and I just go through it, and it's so much fucking fun, and I want more games to do that.
That does sound pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, and yeah, it's just funny. It's just funny and cute.
That I've always wanted to go back to Gungeon, but I always say this when a new roguelike comes out, is that no matter how much time I put into it, my brain only has so much room for roguelike knowledge, and there's so much Isaac knowledge shoved into the deep, dark crevices of my brain that anytime I pick up a new one, I can't get the Isaac knowledge out. I can't get it out. I have to. It stays in there, and I can't have all this room to learn what all the guns do. I just don't.
Yeah, that's another issue about the roguelike industry that I feel like we have to bring up, is that I feel like you really got to sell me on a roguelike now.
You get one.
Yeah, you get one. You get one, and you have to fight for my attention. There's no like, oh, I can kind of play this game and this game. It's like, oh, do I really want to get into a roguelike right now? It's like reading a novel. Do I really want to read all of the Lord of the Rings right now? And I have to read, like, I don't know,
3,000 pages.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm already reading Twilight or Harry Potter or some shit. And I couldn't think of another long-running book series. But, it's got to compete for your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, anything else about Gungeon?
No, I don't think so.
All right, well, I think that's going to wrap up our show then.
Yeah, we kind of have a short one this time, don't we?
Welcome, everyone, to the Soft Luck Podcast for July 15th. I'm Jonathan, joined by my co-host Jake. Today we're talking about roguelites. So what a roguelike is, just a game that's random every time. I'm sure you know. I'm sure you've heard it somewhere else. But the game that I want to bring to the table today is a relatively new entry in the roguelike pantheon. Vampire Survivors. So Vampire Survivors, I didn't even think of it as a roguelike. I don't know why, but it 100% is. It is in every sense of the word, it's a roguelike. Mm-hmm. It is deceptively simple because the only thing you do in that game is walk. You just walk around. There's no buttons. There's no active combat. You just walk around.
Something I've thought about with Vampire Survivors, and maybe I should bring this up later in the discussion of Vampire Survivors, because I feel like you have to play Vampire Survivors to really know about it. Because at a glance, you're like, oh, that game looks pretty crazy. But when you play it, it really is like, all you do, yeah, you're right. All you do is walk around and you just auto-shoot at enemies. That's it. It's almost like an idle game.
Yeah.
And it's very successful, very popular, and it's very, very, very fun. And sometimes I think about that and I go, I think if a AAA developer made this game and sent it out, they would be crucified.
Yeah, absolutely. But the fact that it was one guy and he was like, I just have this really good idea, it makes it really cool. So
one guy who really liked Castlevania.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very Castlevania inspired. It's very funny. Mm-hmm. But the funniest part about it is that the game is very much written in Italian and then translated from Italian. Man. So everything is very Italian humor. So you're like, what? That's so weird. Why? Yeah. But it's really cool. But the thing I love about it so much is that this is the only roguelike, I think, I've ever played that was able to achieve this level of quality and satisfaction and like inner working systems that wasn't hard. It's very easy. It's a very easy game.
Yeah.
Very simple game, I should say, because it is definitely hard towards the end in some of the runs. But like, if you mess up here and there, it's very forgiving. Mm-hmm. But the more knowledgeable you are about what items you have and what you need to get those synergies, or what you want your build to be, or how you want to tackle each run, the more knowledge and strategy you use, the more rewards you're going to get. So It's not like you're not rewarded for knowing the game. You are. It's just like you're not going to lose over and over again if you don't put in a maximum effort.
Yeah, very, very casual, but it runs deceptively deep. It runs so deep that I was almost offended.
Yeah, right? It's like $3 for all this. What do you mean?
It's insanity. Because I was like near the end. I thought I was near the end. I got to that like final level where it's fucking scary.
Yeah, it's a little scary. It breaks the fourth wall and stuff.
The one the way you unlock the, I don't know if it's the way you unlock the level or like the secret you did before it, but what is it where it snaps the fingers?
Yeah, like like photorealistic yellow hands snap their fingers or then clap or something. Or no, you beat the boss and then they clap and then it keeps zooming in on their hands and blacks out. I was like, what's going
I was like, what the fuck?
Going on here?
And I thought I was at the end of the game. Yeah, I was like, oh, I must be at the end of the game. I was not.
Nope, so much more.
And I was like, oh my god, I got the what?
Vampire Survivors for me is okay. I was gonna make a never mind. I'm not gonna say that. Vampire Survivors for me is like it's like a nice warm bed because I can always come back to lay in it. but I don't want to spend the whole day in that bed, if that makes sense.
That is a perfect analogy.
Because I play Vampire Survivors all the time. I know pretty much everyone I know has fallen off of it. I still play Vampire Survivors at least a couple times a week, and I'm so close to 100%ing it, but I just can't do it.
I think I would play it more if they had a save and quit button.
True, I know.
I don't know why they don't have a save and quit button.
I mean, the runs, if you play on speed mode, the runs are only 15 minutes long.
I guess that's true.
It's not the worst thing in the world. And if you play on hyper mode, they're even shorter than that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like I tried the speed mode, and it's a very different experience from the regular 30 minutes, and I didn't really like it as much. Maybe I need to spend more time with it.
Maybe. I play almost exclusively in speed mode. Ever since I unlocked it, I've been using it, and that's my preferred way to play. 15
and you're able
minutes.
to get through to the end?
Yeah, no problem. It doesn't feel any harder. It doesn't feel any easier. It's just more... it is different. You level up differently, but it's 15 minutes, lay down in bed, just play a couple runs, see what I can do.
Yeah.
The 2 DLC expansions they put out for them are also really good.
Yeah, they put 2 out.
So like all the items in Vampire Survivors are very unique, but eventually you get to the point where it's like, oh, well, this is just like the whip, but it goes vertical, or like this is just like the garlic that gives you a halo of damage, but it maybe is vampirism or whatever. But the DLC items are nuts.
Oh, they really?
There's a map that's like D&D magic based type things, and there's 3 different items that are all different spells. But you have to get one and rank it up to get to the next one. Then you have 2 different items. Once you rank the second item, you get the third one. Once you get the third one ranked up, you can combine them all into a giant laser that takes up the whole screen. And stuff like that. Or there's in the Japan expansion, there's a katana that lets you go into like what's the item in Isaac? But like Shadow Judas, where you can go through enemies and stuff like that. It's kind of like that.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's like they keep adding
Dark Arts.
They keep adding some dynamic items to it that are really cool. But I think my favorite part about Vampire Survivors is that, like, the persistent upgrades, the roguelite elements of it are so good. Because every time you finish a run, you have something to unlock that'll make you better the next time. Every run you play of that game, you're stronger than the last. And that's really cool.
Right, yeah. I completely agree. And I feel like that your choices actually do... They're not like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to pick your upgrades and make it to the end of the run, but your choices do matter. Your choices do matter to the point where if you're not given that, you can be like, oh, I really want to make a good AoE build. Or you're playing as that one character who's just the old man who has the garlic.
Poe, yeah.
Poe, I love Poe. And you're just like, fuck, I need like this item to make my build work. You just want to skip those levels. You just want to skip them because you just need that item.
Yeah, it's a lot of risk reward.
You're
like, because there's the item combinations where it's like only these 2 items will combine to get you a new ability that you couldn't get otherwise. Only those 2. So if you fill out your weapon slots and you don't have any more left, and you don't have that weapon that you need, you're not getting that ability.
Yeah.
So it's like I pick up a certain weapon and know that I need a certain passive to combine with it. So I'm holding out, I'm waiting for it to come up, but eventually I just start getting overwhelmed with enemies, so I have to make that tough call of, am I going to wait, or am I going to just get whatever I can get? And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, and let's also bring this up. There's no vampires in the game.
No vampires.
Yeah, what's up with that?
There's one vampire on the title screen.
Who is he?
Dracula.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
But I'm just like...
That was a choice.
That I really think... But was it a choice, or do you think they made the game and they went, oh shit,
no,
we didn't put any vampires in the game?
I think it was a choice. The guy was like, I'm going to make this like Castlevania. It's going to be Castlevania, but I think it'd be really funny if there's no vampires in it.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it Vampire Survivors.
That is really funny. It kind of reminds, I guess you wouldn't know this, but there's a big in-joke for like the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure community, where it's just like, why is this blatant inconsistency in the thing? And then the answer is just, oh, the author forgot. He just forgot it was in the thing.
It might be
and
that.
That's always funny. But I think, just the last thing I bring up, I guess, I think it's inspiring, the success story of Vampire Survivors, because I think the more I think about it, the more I'm like, how the fuck did this work and get so popular?
Right? And the funniest thing about Vampire Survivors is that it was already so popular before it came to mobile, but then once it came to mobile, it became like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's like Among Us, where it's like this dude didn't expect this at all. He was just doing something he thought was fun, and then Xbox Game Pass helped him get a lot of people in the door, mobile helped him get a lot of people in the door, and now he's probably rich.
He's probably rich, and I think if he gets maybe like not outsources, but like hire some people to maybe like help him out with some of the logistics of like actually like the game, to make my phone not overheat after playing it for 10 minutes, and make some other changes, like like a save and quit button. I think they can, that guy can make even more money. I think he can make a really, really solid, like, flawless product.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's a pretty cool. I know it's a small team now. It's not just one guy.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing some tweets about like they had the Japan expansion and the D&D expansion, and I think they're working on now they're working on co-op. That's like their next thing. But he was like, as soon as the game was finished, he started working on this expansions, and he was gonna have them come out at like such a fast clip. But once the game blew up, it started becoming so popular that it spawned all those
I was just gonna say
the developers on mobile to come and start copying his idea, and he was like, "We got to get it on mobile. We got to get it on mobile now." And then he did, and it's not like predatorily monetized. It's very fairly monetized, I would say, and it's free.
Is there even monetization?
It's completely optional. That's what makes it really good. It's like if you want more rewards, you can watch ads, but you don't need to.
I think you just pay money once and I think I did that. I think I paid the money just to.
Is that I don't think you have to because the ads they're not like banner ads or anything.
No, they're not banner ads, but I think it said like, do you want like it's like support our product and buy this to get no ads and blah blah blah, and I went. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that was in there. Huh.
I just helped them out.
But yeah, I love playing on mobile, but I'm excited for it to come to Switch. I think that'll be cool too.
Oh, you're right.
Even playing it on TV on Xbox is also really good. I mean, it's good no matter where you play.
Are you gonna redo all that progress just for the Switch port?
They have a cloud save system now, actually. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know if it'll carry from mobile to Switch. I hope it will, but we'll find a workaround.
That's sick as fuck.
Yeah.
All right.
It's pretty cool. All right, well, that was Vampire Survivors, so I think that's going to bring us to the end of this episode of the Softlock Podcast. So we'll see you in the next one.
This is a pretty short one, isn't it? Hi, welcome to the Softlock Podcast. I am Nolan, and together with my co-host Greg, and today we're talking about roguelikes. Yep, hello. This episode is a bit late on this one because Greg kind of got into a fender bender and broke his leg.
So, I overturned a banana truck.
Yeah, how is that leg doing, by the way?
It's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Can we talk about video games?
Yeah, let's talk about the video games. Anyway, this week we're talking... I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject, but we're talking about roguelikes.
Oh, it's sore, all right.
Yeah, it is very sore. We're talking about roguelikes in this episode. Roguelikes are games that rely heavily on randomization, procedural generation, different every time you play, permadeath, steep, what is it? What's the curve? Learning curve, all shit like that. I'm sure you know about it.
Dropping the S word in the first 5 minutes of the podcast, damn.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just really pumped because we have to move fast because my favorite roguelike is Nuclear Throne. I have not played Isaac or Gungeon or Vampire Survivors, any of those really, really popular ones. Mm-hmm. I played Nuclear Throne. That's my roguelike. Nuclear
Throne is too hard.
What? Yeah, hold on. Wait. Elaborate on that.
No, you give your spiel about Nuclear Throne. I'm giving you a fair warning now that I have played the game. Mm-hmm. I respect the game for what it is. It's too hard for me. I can't do it.
It is fast as shit. You're right. It is fast as shit. It has comparatively no content compared to those other roguelikes that I just named, and other roguelikes that exist. Like Slay the Spire, Darkest Dungeon, stuff like that. But I love it so much. It's so addicting. Runs to beat the game, are less than 20 minutes. And you just go in, you pick a character, you go in, you fight like hell, get out, probably die, and you do it all again. And I don't know if you've ever seen this video. I think you should watch this video.
Okay.
And I think everyone at home should probably watch this video. I need to find the actual name of it.
We'll link it in the description.
Yeah, it's the guy, Vlambeer is the developer for Nuclear Throne, and one of the developers for Vlambeer Nuclear Throne did a TED Talk-esque panel. I don't know if it was at PAX or where the hell it was, where he talks about game feel in a video game, and it was like, I don't know, maybe a 15-minute video. And it taught me so much about understanding how a game feels, how small differences in presentation can change the way you feel about a video game.
For that one, it's all about animation in Nuclear Throne.
It's all about animation. It's about the sound effects. It's about those, those little lighting things that happen. And while in this video, he has a game. He just has like a game that he just like sprung up or whatever. It's just a guy with
demo
a gun.
Type thing.
Yeah, demo. It's just a little guy with a gun, and enemies swarm at the sides, and he hits the spacebar button. Nothing. It's just a little demo, and he designs the game as he's talking to add things like screen shake and feedback and a punchy sound effect and like the sound of experience entering your character and the body of the enemy like flopping over and then kind of tinting dark to show that it's no longer alive and shit like that. And I watched it and I went, holy shit, I didn't realize such small things add up so much to make an experience so satisfying, so rewarding, and so addicting. And all of those tricks are used in Nuclear Throne.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nuclear Throne does not have that much to unlock. It does not have that much content. Like I said, you go in, you raise hell. It's super fast paced. It's much more of a bullet hell than most of those other roguelikes. But it's one of those games that I launch it up and I'm just like, let me just play like an hour Nuclear Throne, and then I put in another 50 hours just because it's so easy to just go new run, new mutation. I'm gonna try this. I want to do this and that character. I want to see what happens. And if something doesn't work, it's over in 6 minutes.
Yep, it is great. So fun to play, so addicting, very hard, but it's so fun to watch as well.
That's one of the those speed runs, those ones that what is it? I don't know if you know this concept, but it's called looping.
No, I'm not.
If you have to beat the final boss in a very specific way, and if you do that, the game doesn't end. You go to a new final boss, and then if you beat that, you do something called looping. And the setting of it's about kind of like the setting of the game. The setting of the game is that the apocalypse happened, and you're going through wormholes to find the Nuclear Throne and be like the king of the fucking mutants or whatever. And the whole thing is like different dimensions and wormholes. That's just like the set piece they frame the game in front of. And you start the game from the very beginning. And obviously there's more enemies, but there's also the intergalactic portal police or something like that, some shit like that, and they'll just run in and they'll try to attack you because you're in another dimension and they like have to stop you. And it's basically like that New Game Plus, and watching those runs where it's like I'm playing this character, the glass cannon character with 2 HP, but
is that YV?
No, YV is my favorite character.
He's the only one I remember.
Yeah, Young Venus is the best character in the game. In my opinion, he is the Illuminati triangle with a golden gun, and his special ability is that he can shoot 2 times the amount of bullets, and it's called pop pop.
Yeah.
Pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And if you upgrade his unique ability with the throne butt mutation, which the image that they use for that mutation is just a really nice butt of one of the mutants. I mean, they're all little like chibi guys, so it's like funny. It's instead of pop pop, it's called brap.
Oh.
And you shoot 4 bullets at once instead of 2, and it's awesome. But the character I'm actually referring to is called Melting. It's basically a skeleton, and it has it's flesh on a skeleton that's constantly melting and dripping from like radiation and shit like that. And he has 2 HP. He dies instantly to almost anything, but his special ability is that every corpse that you can see on the map, if you right click, it blows up.
Right. I remember that.
And he is one of my favorite characters, and really every character you play as has a very unique play style because they have that ability that you have to fashion your entire runarounds because their abilities are so different and unique, and some of them are shit. I
know, but
Eyes. Not a fan of Eyes. Sorry, I really liked him because he has the 3D glasses alternate costume. But it is so rewarding. Oh man, I don't know. I could just talk about it so much.
I don't hear a lot of people talk about Nuclear Throne nowadays. Is it on consoles? Is it on Switch, or is it only on PC?
I think it's on Switch. I don't know if it's on Xbox or PlayStation, but I know it's definitely on Switch. And the co-op is actually workable on that. Whenever I try to do co-op on my PC, it doesn't work. But if you got a buddy and you have it on Switch, you're in for a really, really good time.
I don't know. I feel like I should go back to it because there's from my going from middle or junior high to high school type ages when I played this for the first time. So I don't remember a lot about it. Played a lot with my friend Pierce and everything, and we tried some co-op I think at some point, but I just was so bad at it.
It can be really difficult. You have to really get your shit kicked in a ton of times. I think I only ever beat it once I had 60 hours in, and it can feel very frustrating because I imagine most people don't get that carrot on a stick where, I unlock this new item, I unlock this, that. Because when you die, you just kind of go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's so fun that I'm not even bothered by the fact that there's so little unlocks.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll ever get a follow-up or if that guy's making games now. Like, I don't follow that or anything, but I remember back in the day, you'd look up, like, during the Steam sale or whatever, you'd be like, what are the best indie games to buy right now? Nuclear Throne was always up there with Isaac, with things like Oxenfree and all of them. Nowadays,
Oxenfree 2 just came out.
It did just come out, but I feel like a lot of people don't talk about Nuclear Throne anymore, and I kind of miss seeing the little funny guys.
Yeah, I think the longevity of Nuclear Throne, severely / crippled by the amount of content it has, but I still think it had so much more impact than most people would have probably thought about.
Probably.
So it's a bit short-lived in the grand scheme of things, but still way more outlived. Did way more than expected, I think.
Yeah, sure. Really good game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, speaking of really good games, we're going to talk a little bit about our audience's favorite roguelike game. So we put out the poll on Instagram.com/softlockpod for you to respond with, what are your favorite roguelike games and why? Now, listen, fellas. When I say and why, it's because we want to have something to talk about. You guys just gave us so many games to talk about, and just gave us a list of games to talk about. And guess what? We're going to talk about them to the extent of our knowledge. So, at Greg with 2 Gs.
Oh, that's your name.
That is my name. Greg with 2 Ds, 2750, wrote in with a lot of games. Tape to Tape is his first one. Have you heard of Tape to Tape?
No.
So I looked up Tape to Tape just when I read about this. It's a hockey roguelike. It just came out in May.
What?
And it looks really fun. It's kind of funny where like you it's like a NHL video game type feel, but very indie and cartoony. And it's like you play a round of hockey, and in between you get to upgrade your sticks so they can deal damage to enemies. You hit enemies with your stick, or you unlock like little abilities to hit the puck in different ways, or like tie up the enemy's goalie. It looks really fun. It's kind of like not Super Mega Baseball, but whatever that other baseball roguelite is that everyone likes. It's kind of like that.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
He wrote in Peglin, which I had heard of, but I didn't really know what it was. So right before the podcast, I was playing Peglin to test it out. That game is really cool. It's a Peggle roguelike that's D&D themed, but you're the goblin. And that's pretty funny. Apparently it's super popular, because it's a mobile game. Super popular, but I didn't really know much about it. What's up?
I'm thinking of it.
Peggle 2.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Peggle 2.
I told you about that, right? Yeah, we were on the last podcast. Peggle 2.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about that stupid video with live goblin caught on tape. It's the guy falling off the ladder. It's superimposed the image of the shitty goblin. Goblin is one of the words that makes me laugh like instantly. Like I don't know, what's the other word? Skeleton and Peglin. Yeah, all that type of shit. I'm just like, goblin.
The next game is Gunfire Reborn. Do you remember Gunfire Reborn?
Gunfire Reborn. Hold on.
So they showed it off at an Xbox thing a couple years ago. Not gonna lie, Greg, I was very not interested in this game. It looks not that good, but
I don't know this one.
But the fact that you have it among your top listed roguelikes of all time gives me hope. So I'm gonna look into it. It's kind of like you're these cute little animals, and it's a first-person shooter, horde shooter roguelike.
2.5 million copies sold worldwide. Someone's buying this.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, it just kind of looked I think it was just a bad trailer, to be honest with you.
Bad trailers are a huge gripe of mine.
Because it looks just a little too silly for me. But then
reminds me of Biomutant. Remember that?
Yeah. It did. Well, I mean, it kind of reminds me of Biomutant in the way it was presented, but the game doesn't look like it.
I just mean the little characters.
Oh, honestly. Yeah. Luck Be a Landlord. That's a good one. Have you played that one?
What the fuck?
So Luck Be a Landlord is a roguelike. Is a slot machine roguelike.
Huh?
So the goal here is that
fellas, are slot machines roguelikes?
Oh, wait a minute.
You just couldn't.
But you don't unlock anything for the slot machine.
It's
anything that's in arcade. Yeah, you get you get more money, so then you can play more slot machines. The casino is a roguelike.
The casino is a roguelike.
But no, so Luck Be a Landlord is a roguelike where you have a slot machine and you have to put money in, spin the slots, get money back. Then you get to buy upgrades of like, I want more monkeys on my slot machine, and then if you get a bunch of monkeys next to each other, you get more money. Then you put the money back in. You're like, I want to get rid of all bombs on my slot machine so I don't get fucked over. Then you spin the slot machine, get more money. But you're on a timer, or like a round-based timer,
right?
And you have to make enough money to pay your landlord.
What?
It's really cool. I really like this one, and it's super simple looking. It's always cheap. I would definitely recommend checking it out. I was
going to say, what does the landlord have to do with anything?
He says, oh, you're here. Welcome to the new, I think it's a hotel. You're like, welcome to the hotel. You got a slot machine if you want to use it. See ya. And you have to pay him your rent through the slot machine. It's really cool.
That is, I'm looking at it right now. That is funny as fuck. How much is this?
I don't know.
It's $10.
I remember it was pretty cheap. And he also has Vampire Survivors, which is obviously super good.
Yeah.
And we have from Sam T123, Binding of Isaac, I guess, because I hate myself and I don't have a life. Me too. Because you really have to dedicate a lot of time to Isaac if you want to learn everything there is to know. But it's like the hate that you love, you know? It's like it hurts to die over and over again, but you love to learn more about it.
I was gonna say, what game do I hate and love at the same time? Like, and then I remember, it's like every game I play. I'm like, oh man, this game sucks. I love it.
She also said Returnal is really good, which I will agree. Returnal is super good. It might be the only good AAA roguelite ever made.
You guys, I keep on getting good things about Returnal, and I'm starting to crack.
Okay, Final Fantasy 16 notwithstanding, I'm not sure where I feel about that. Returnal is the best PS5 game.
Really?
It is the best PS5 game. It takes sidebar. I know we're going long on this episode, but I need to talk about Returnal real quick. Returnal is the best use of the PlayStation DualSense controller that has been made yet. The best.
Oh, you did tell me.
So the haptics are so perfect. If it's raining in that game and you set your controller down on your desk, it sounds like it's raining in your room. There's a attack. Almost every weapon has a main fire and a sub fire that you can do, and the main fire is done by pulling the trigger halfway. Oh. And the sub fire is by pulling it the whole way, but halfway the trigger freezes up, so you don't accidentally click it, and that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I do like that.
It takes advantage of the loading times so much. There's no loading screens, pretty much no loading screens. There's so many particle effects on screen at all time. It's so flashy. There's so much going on. It has sounds coming out of the controller. If you just got a PS5 and you want to see everything that it can do, get Returnal.
Small little tangent about I really like the PS5 controller, probably, but that was the most advanced controller I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you think this is gonna, like, that type of stuff is gonna be a gimmick by the time like in 10 years? Do you think people are gonna be like if you have a kid and you're gaming in the same room as your sleeping kid, you think you're like, oh shit, you know, because I was playing Resident Evil 4 and I had headphones on. And there's a part where Sadler comes on and he starts, like, you know, talking to me through my brain or something like that. Yeah. And his voice was coming through the speaker on my controller, and he sounded like shit because I have my headphones on. I was like, turn up the volume, and then my girlfriend was sleeping and she was like stirring because it was coming through my shoulder. I went, oh! So I'm like, is that gonna get weeded out at some point, or what's going on?
I think there's tasteful uses for it. Final Fantasy 16 does the controller sounds really well.
Oh yeah.
Where, like, when your abilities recharge, it comes through the controller, so it doesn't get overwhelmed by the sound coming from your TV during the fight. That's pretty neat use of it.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose what sound effects come through that controller. Yeah. You cannot make it like the impact sound or something like that.
Returnal, really good, also really hard, but all things considered, not the most advanced roguelike, but it is really good. And then we got at hill.the.thrill comes through with a big list. Say Cult of the Lamb. I know you didn't play Cult of the Lamb, right?
I did not.
I didn't play it either. It looks good. It gives me that vibe of, like, they did just enough to make it a game. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I know a lot of people really like it. Okay.
Well, our roommate plays. Jonathan plays it.
Yeah, Jonathan plays
it on TV, and it looks fun.
And I know he likes it a lot. Yeah. I don't know. Just something about it just looks like the combat doesn't do it for me, but everything else does.
Yeah.
People say it's the first roguelite town builder combo. Obviously, you've never heard of Dark Cloud.
I was gonna say Darkest Dungeon.
Or Darkest Dungeon. I don't know much about Darkest Dungeon.
Darkest Dungeon. Okay. I know. In another galaxy, in another universe, we were talking about roguelike versus roguelites. Darkest Dungeon would probably be more of a roguelite because, let me go ahead. Darkest Dungeon, you keep your same characters and you upgrade them, and all the upgrades you have a hamlet that you upgrade and you build and stuff like that, and you keep all that stuff. The dungeons are completely randomized each time, and everything in your hamlet, all your characters are exactly the same. That might be a better definition of a roguelite. But it's marketed as a roguelike because... Okay, never mind.
Because it's really hard and you die a lot.
I really thought I made a revelation. I did not. So, never mind.
Cult of the Lamb, though, I am thinking about playing it on my Twitch streams because it has really good Twitch integration.
Oh, yeah, you can name your little guys,
You can name your little guys after the people in the chat, but they can also determine, like, some weird modifiers that happen to you and stuff. So I'm thinking about trying that.
You cannot give me that privilege.
Just King. Do you know what? I've never heard of Just King. Do you know what that is?
Just King?
Yeah.
No.
Do some research on that, because the next one is Boyfriend Dungeon, and Boyfriend Dungeon is sick as fuck. It is a very funny dating sim / dungeon crawling roguelike, and it is just super cute, super fun. It's if you ever see it on sale, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's good for like an afternoon. It's just fun and makes you feel good.
Is it Boyfriend Dungeon?
Boyfriend Dungeon, yeah.
So, Just King.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find any gameplay of it. It's well, actually. Oh wait, hold on. Dude, I don't even know how to decipher this.
What am I looking at?
I don't know. But it's really cute.
It is really cute.
This seems like something that I would have to see a video of to get a good gist of it. But it is really cute, and I guess there's the king.
This is why you gotta tell us why. You gotta. I said, what's your favorite roguelike and why? You gotta tell us why.
Yeah, I don't even care if you send in multiple submissions. Send in 7. I don't even care. DM us. I would love to know why.
No, but yeah, thanks for sending in. Let us know what Just King's about, though.
Yeah.
And then finally we have Risk of Rain 2, which my friend used to be really into Risk of Rain 1. I played it with him once. He didn't explain what was going on, and I got super overwhelmed, so I never went back to it.
I did not like Risk of Rain Run.
Risk of Rain Run?
Risk of Rain 1. I did not like the first one. I played it when it first came out. I really, really didn't like the first one, so when the second one came out, or was like in development, I was like, whatever.
It looks cool. I've never seen a game translate from 2D to 3D as well as Risk of Rain 2.
It looks fucking amazing.
It does.
My friends back home love it. They love it.
I'd be willing to give Risk of Rain 2 a try someday. It does. It looks really cool.
It's always on like the number one. Before this episode, I was doing some research. I was like, I was thinking about getting like a big list together and as a joke reading off like, let's just read off some roguelikes that have been released in the past 10 years and read like 70 names off it. I didn't want to type all that out. So I just skimming through the Steam charts, and Risk of Rain 2 is like consistently up on the top of these charts since it's like released.
I mean, I saw some stuff about it where it's like kind of extraction where you can like leave early to keep some of your items, and that's pretty cool. I like that. Like Loop Hero.
Like Loop Hero. It's very successful. So I honestly try out Risk of Rain 2. I haven't even played it, but I feel confident recommending it to people.
All right, before we wrap up, I have to say something or you will get slaughtered by the masses.
Okay.
Hades is the best roguelite ever made. It just is.
Okay.
High quality gameplay, high quality story, visual assets. Hades is the best roguelike ever made. It's not for me.
Really? I was not expecting that sentence to end like that.
100% can acknowledge that it is the most well-made game. I see what they did. Every boss is perfect. All the items synergize perfectly. The balance is perfect. The story is good. The voice acting is terrific. The visuals are awesome. For some reason, I just can't get into it.
Really?
But I 100% can acknowledge, I'm making a bold statement saying it's the best. It's definitely one of the best. I think it is technically better than The Binding of Isaac in the way that it does everything perfectly. No flaws in that game. No flaws.
That is a high praise.
But I can't in good conscience say that it's my favorite or that it is the number one. I know I did. It was just kind of for the bit. Mm-hmm. It is among the best, and it deserves to be shouted out as one of the best.
I can respect that, and I need to play that. I really do need to play that. I've had it in my Steam thing for a while, but roguelikes are very intimidating to get into these days. You never know whether or not you're gonna have a little trant through you never know whether or not you're gonna have a good romp through I don't know, I had some good times in the 20 hours of game time, or if you're about to delve 400 hours of your life into a video game.
Like, what I'm saying is not for me is that I think it's been wrong place, wrong time, because every time I play Hades, I am blown away with the fact that there's just nothing wrong. It might be a perfect video game,
really,
but for some reason, every time I get into it, something comes along and drags me away from it. That's what the problem is. I think it's because I have too much institutional Binding of Isaac knowledge built up that I can't in good conscience replace all that with Hades knowledge. The game's just so good, man.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to have to say goodbye to Isaac.
Eventually. I know.
And unless he just remakes the game again.
Which he will.
Which he could. He feasibly could. It's been long enough that if he went and I'm going to remake the game and just make it better, I don't know if people would go, oh, that's a terrible idea. It really might just make him $1 billion more.
It will. It
might.
But yeah, I had to put it out there because if we don't mention Hades on the roguelike episode, we're going to get dragged through the streets. People love that game.
People do really love that game. Hades 2.
Hades 2. I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait for Hades 2 because I want to love Hades 1 as much as everyone else does, and maybe one day I'll get there and I'll report back.
Very rarely do you see roguelike sequels. I feel
Yeah,
like
you
Spelunky
never
2 got announced.
Spelunky 2. You never see a Supergiant sequel though, ever.
Oh, is that the developer?
Yeah, the Supergiant games. Every single one of the like Transistor, Bastion.
Oh shit! They made Transistor.
Yeah, they made Transistor. They made Bastion. All their games are very different. They're all that unique visual style, but the gameplay is very different. This is their first roguelite, and this is the first sequel that they're making with Hades 2. So.
Wow, that is impressive. It's impressive to have a roguelike sequel, but apparently it's more impressive to be that developer. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, they're definitely among the best indie devs right now. Like I can't give enough praise to this game, even though I haven't finished it or anything like that, because I've just never seen a game nail everything it's going for as much as Hades.
Yeah. Wow.
But I think this might be our longest episode yet, so why don't we put a nail in it there?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so thank you so much for tuning in to this roguelike episode of the Softlock Podcast. Literally a roguelike episode. Remember, you can follow us at SoftlockPod on Instagram and on YouTube. Remember, on YouTube, you have to type in youtube.com/@SoftlockPod for some reason. I don't really know why they do that. That's how you find us there. And remember, we're going to be taking a very brief hiatus, so definitely keep up with us on Instagram to see, first off, what our next topics are going to be and when that episode is going to come out. So, anything for the audience before we send off, Jonathan?
Yeah, everyone. Ooh, that was a nice voice crack. Oh boy. You know what? No, I don't even want to say what I was going to say. It's just some stupid joke, but that was better. That was
okay,
better.
All right.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right. Well, make sure you tune in with us. Thanks for following us for the roguelike episode, and we will see you in the next one.
Woo,
see ya!